Hey guys, Sav coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Now normally I'd be doing a much more in-depth patch notes breakdown, but actually when I've looked at the game data, there isn't an awful lot that is not in the official patch notes for the first time. So what I'm going to do in this video is just give you a bit of a breakdown of the patch notes, some of the things such as the new Hydra season that is sort of in the background ready for the next rotation, and we're just going to have a quick look at the new Fusion Champions Multipliers Gaius the Gleeful. So let's have a look at the official patch notes that we have here. So we've got the new Cold Heart skins and the champion rebalances in the game. We will cover Inithwe's multipliers in a bit, but it's very disappointing. And we've also obviously got the big thing of this patch, which is the Forge Pass. Now, my opinion on the Forge Pass is I actually think it's not bad value, although I do think it's a little disappointing, especially for a free player. I don't think there's anything of any value in the free pass. And I would also like the sort of glyphs to have been 6-star glyph. And I also strongly believe that the set should be a 2-piece set with a 5% ignore defense, not a 4-piece with 15%, because I think it just moves it into this position where it's not as good as 2-speed sets and it's not as good as a savage set. So you're likely not going to want to use that set that much. I did go into more detail in the video for our podcast that is coming out probably tomorrow or the day after. So if you want a bit more of a breakdown on that when I discuss it with Fiction, check out our regular scheduled podcast. Obviously, we have the new Cold Heart skins. This was promised when they first hinted that they were doing skins. I personally don't have an issue with the price point. I don't think they're worth the value that they're being priced at, but if people want to buy them, then that's up to them. It doesn't affect my gameplay, therefore I'm not going to sort of get really upset about them. This one is really interesting for me. Gear cost removal events. Now I think really the Forge Pass should have some of this in it, but it's good to see that we're getting this back. I don't think it happens enough. I think we get one every 6 months. I'm quite a fan of Hellhades' idea where we actually have sort of like a free weekend every month or every 2 months. But yeah, hopefully this is actually a substantial reduction because silver is still an issue for the majority of players in this game. Now let's talk about some rebalances. Ethos is not really it's not really a sort of a buff or a nerf. It just kind of brings him up to why has a Void Legend got 15% weaken. Kind of makes sense. Inithwe's multiplier has gone from 3.3 to 3.6. So it's roughly around about a 9% increase. Now, if you've got a Foley, he still does more damage, Foley. So you're not going to replace him because Foley's AoE versus Inithwe's AoE, Foley still wins, and also Foley has the additional single target damage. So I would 100% suggest that this is not a buff that's substantial enough. It moves him up the list a little bit, but you know, we're still talking he's half of what a Trunder does. He is nowhere near some of the big damage dealers. He's not even on par with like Cleo that just got buffed, and he's a Void Legendary. If it's a case of the block revive is too powerful, then just move it from the passive to a skill or rework it somehow, add a little bit of a condition. But if he's not going to hit hard enough, he's not going to block revives anyway, so it's a bit of a pointless thing. Shiromani is getting what I would call a 2022 glow up. Her skill cooldowns are being brought down to a sort of a level that we'd expect champions coming out now. 5 turns and 4 turns was just too long. It probably makes her actually quite a reliable champion to use in something like Bommel. Extra healing is really good. The freeze is really useful. Certainly useful for sort of controlling the arena, wave clearing. Yeah, I think it's a good change. It's not going to make her like a god tier champion, but it's definitely putting her in the right position now, where before her cooldowns are just too long. We've got some bug fixes. I did look in the code to see what they actually meant with these. A lot of these is adding effects into the sort of champion skills, which kind of forces it to behave like they want it to. Nothing particularly sort of concerning here. I will add though the one particular point, which is point 4, where they've talked about the bug fix for Kanoiki. They've also applied this bug fix to Scathic's passive. So I think he has a similar thing where he gets block damage if he falls below 30%. So if you were experiencing the same problem, it should also work for Scathic's now as well. The big one obviously is allowing us to replay Doom Tower battles. It was incredibly frustrating not being able to just replay, especially if you use RSL Helper to climb the tower. That was annoying and frustrating. So let's take a quick look at Gaius the Gleeful's multipliers. We've updated on the website now, so you can go in and see those multipliers. It's got a 1.8 double hit godlike. That's really quite strong. He's going to get an extra turn if he kills a champion, so that's good. It means he will kill someone with that ability. He's got a 3.8 AoE. That's sort of on the higher end of the AoE multipliers. It tends to be the 4 times cap that we look for. And that is also a godlike on the hit alone. We're not talking about bombs. Bombs doesn't get factored into the actual rating here. It's just talking about the damage hit. That is godlike, so that is great. The bombs are also doing the default bomb multiplier of 5 times attack. Now, he also has, I think, the highest base attack of any bomber at 1586. In the next video, which should be coming out in a couple of days, I'm going to be doing a bit of a how to build a bomb slash kind of what is the best bomb champion in terms of who can scale the best, who does the most amount of bomb damage, which should be interesting for people who want to build out the Gaius. We're going to be looking at things such as how do you prioritize your substats. But effectively, at 5 times attack with that base attack, it should put him really high up in terms of the champion that can deal the most damage through bombs alone. His A3 then is a double hit again, and also can ignore unkillables, which is nice. 2.9 times attack, so that becomes effectively nearly a 6 times attack ability, and that is godlike. The fact that he double hits is also really good into people like Rotus, who has that kind of annoying passive if you're not using Romantu. And then finally, his passive, again, the good thing, his bombs are 5 times attack on the passive as well. So with a bit of luck, he actually might be viable as a bomb champion. Obviously, he's negative affinity to Bommel, which is a bit disappointing. And we can't book this passive, which is really frustrating. I think if we could book it up to 50%, he would be I'd be much more confident that he would be viable. In his current form, I don't think he has enough in his kit to be able to cope with champions such as Wither and Mithrala, which you see a lot at the high end of Arena. They're going to be in Stone Skin. He's just going to put 2-turn bomb on those champions and they're going to instantly cleanse those bombs away. So I think in that scenario, he's kind of useless then, because if he dies, you can't destroy bombs that have been removed. How reliable are you going to be able to get those bombs on a 30% rating before he just dies and gets one shot, because he's going to be squishy anyway? So I'm concerned about his arena viability, but as a bomb champion, he could be fun to play with, and definitely you should pick him up because there are not enough bomb champions to warrant skipping a good legendary bomb champion right now. If this was a decreased attack, then it's a completely different question. We've got plenty of champions that can do that, but there is still only 16 effects in the game that can do a bomb, and that is quite small considering we've got 600 champions over 14 to 1500 effects. So the only other thing in this patch that I wanted to quickly talk about here was Hydra. So let's take a look at what we've got in Hydra Season 6. So this will be the 6th version of Hydra. Okay, so Hydra Season 6, they've been kind of making a new rotation. They don't generally tend to change the stats. This is mostly what head with what affinity that we face. We've had 6 so far. They haven't repeated a rotation as of yet, so I don't know whether they're just going to keep changing it up every month or whether we start going back, but we just will continuously keep adding these rotations to the optimizer and the website as they come in. So in this rotation, you're going to be facing the Decay head, the Torment head, the Mischief head, and the Wrath head in the same rotation. So the 4 starting heads. We've got Double Force, Spirit, and Magic. So the good thing is now we've broken that relationship between the Blight and the Decay head, cleanse into Poison Cloud. That shouldn't happen anymore, but you will need to bring back your Shamaels and Duchesses to deal with the Torment head. I think this is pretty similar to the first rotation, if it's not at all different. Yeah, so the first rotation we had Suffering instead of the Wrath head, and I think then we went to rotation 2 and the Wrath head became a thing. Yeah, so it's very much similar to the Wrath head, rotation 2. Instead of Blight, we've got Decay. So we still have to deal with the full team cleanse in this new rotation. We're still going to have to deal with Torment head, but that's pretty straightforward if you've got a Shamael or a Duchess. I know that's a bit of an assumption, but if you've got one of those 2 champions, you should be able to deal with those situations. I think as well, 2 Hanorach and Doom Priest can work. We'll have to manage the Wrath head, so decreased attack, blocking buffs is still going to be a thing, and you've also got the Mischief to deal with as well. But I think it should be a little bit easier to deal with because you haven't got Poison Cloud slowing you down, but it's hard. It's still really difficult. We haven't seen any changes to Hydra. I don't know whether that's related to the situation in Ukraine or whether or not they're quite happy with the state it is in. Who knows? Maybe there's a new head coming soon. They have hinted at that. But right now, it's still the same Hydra. It's just slightly different variations. But there you go, guys. A small, short video for patch 5.4. There's not a lot of stuff in the back end that we didn't already know about or they haven't told us. As always, if you like these videos, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from us, please subscribe to our channel. That'll come straight into your feed. Keep an eye out for my next video where we'll be talking more about bombs and whether or not we can make Gaius the Gleeful actually do something.